We believe that true and lasting change begins within. And we may have a film about the environment, but ultimately, at its core, for us to curate that film into our lineup, it needs to be about shifting our mindset at the root. Mm-hmm. Then we understand at a deep level that we are all one, that we are interconnected with nature, and that allows us to walk differently in the world. So a big part of what we do is getting to the root of our belief systems and really hoping to create a more caring civilization.
Welcome back, everyone, to Living in Santa Barbara. I'm your host, Kathy Henry, and you just heard a snippet from today's podcast on the ILLUMINATE Film Festival, which has recently relocated to our community from Sedona, Arizona. Think about the times you've been deeply moved by a film. That's the magic ILLUMINATE brings with its mission to inspire lasting transformation and elevate human consciousness through the power of cinema. I'm excited to introduce the Executive Director of the festival, Téana David, who's here to talk about the festival and its recent debut in Santa Barbara. Welcome, Téana.
Hi, Kathy. It's great to be on your show.
Yeah, thanks. I've had several people tell me that I need to talk to you before the film festival came. I'm kind of new to the film festival circuit. I just recently started going to festivals because, like I was saying earlier, my son is going to film school. And I realized one of the most impactful things about performing arts and about films is that it's the ability to reach people and send a message.
Oh, you're so right about that. Mm-hmm. And films have a very unique way of reaching a lot of people, mm-hmm. right? They are a medium that can actually be global. And play usually doesn't have that kind of reach. So it is a unique property of film. And I think that leveraging that to be able to spread solution-oriented messages in the case of ILLUMINATE is what we need to do to save our planet.
Yeah. So tell us, what is ILLUMINATE Film Festival?
So ILLUMINATE is dedicated to elevating human consciousness through cinema. And we were established in 2014 in Sedona, Arizona. This past year was our 10th year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we moved to Santa Barbara.
Yeah. And we're glad to have you.
Yes. And we were glad to have Santa Barbara because the reception we received was just so uplifting and really let us know that Santa Barbara is the perfect new home for ILLUMINATE. There are so many people here who care.
Yeah.
And who want to make a difference mm-hmm. in all of the areas that ILLUMINATE films touch on. So social action, environmental stewardship, and, women's equality, and generally elevating consciousness. So we believe that true and lasting change begins within. And we may have a film about the environment, but ultimately at its core, for us to curate that film into our lineup, it needs to be about shifting our mindset at the root. Mm-hmm. Then we understand at a deep level that we are all one, that we are interconnected with nature, and that allows us to walk differently in the world. So a big part of what we do is getting to the root of our belief systems and really hoping to create a more caring civilization.
Mm-hmm. Seems like there's definitely a movement here, such a large community of people caring about personal growth and environmentalism. So
yeah, exactly. After these big oil spills in 1969, the first Earth Day happened here in Santa Barbara in 1970. And in other places. But I think you're right. There is a lot of attention here to personal growth, and that's wonderful. And what ILLUMINATE is aiming to do is to connect the personal growth with the planetary wellness.
Yes.
So that it's not just about healing ourselves. It's about making ourselves whole so that we can be a more whole part of the healing of, everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really an important distinction to make. And sometimes we want to withdraw into ourselves and just fix ourselves. But actually, we find that by helping others, we heal ourselves. And that's a very interesting reciprocal dance to discover in one's life. And so a lot of what Illuminate is doing, especially with the festival, the annual festival, is building community.
Yeah.
We are stronger together. We are building a net and a network that creates resilience in the local community and then also just in the global conscious community, because people do come from all over to Illuminate. And now more than ever, we can stay connected in different ways. But it really is about building a web that that lets us know we're not alone.
Yeah. So the festival, it was sold out. I mean, the passes were, and a lot of the films were too. Were you expecting it to have? It just happened a couple of weeks ago, right?
It happened in early April.
Oh, okay.
So it happened a month ago. And we weren't sure, Kathy.
Oh, yeah, today's May 1st.
That's right. Yeah.
I was like,
we weren't sure what to expect.
Yeah.
Truly. We were prepared for all scenarios of people not getting it and not coming and not buying tickets, or a lot of people responding and wanting passes. And you're right. I mean, we sold out of those all access passes pretty quickly. And then we got a good amount of information about which kinds of films really lit up a Santa Barbara audience. And
which ones were they?
Well, I'll say that the audience award winner was a film called Wilding.
Oh, I'd missed that.
It was our closing night film.
Yeah.
It's directed by an English director, David Allen, produced by Passion Pictures and Tangled Bank Studios. And it's absolutely storytelling craft. It's based on a book, which is based on a true story. And this estate in England, it's huge. I don't know, 300 acres or more. It had been farmed very conventionally for the last, century and a half. And the land was damaged.
Yeah.
And then when these young people inherited it, they just knew that it had the potential to come back to its former glory. And they went about doing an experiment. How do we rewild? And against everything that was going on in the rest of their community, against all quote unquote conventional knowledge of how to make healthy land and grow healthy food, they were bold, they were courageous in listening to experts who really understand the web of life.
Yeah.
And so they end up bringing back old species of, pigs, like pre-domesticated pigs, and some birds from the 1400s, and just animals that had not actually been in England for centuries. And they brought them back onto the land, let them do their thing. And lo and behold, when animals are allowed to be their full animal selves, not in cages, a cascade of incredible effects happen, all the way down to the smallest insect, who is then healthier, and the water is healthier.
Yeah.
The trees, gosh, when you're not destroying the soil with lots of tilling and conventional pesticides, which, are made from petroleum products and other poisons that were developed during World War I to kill people and then were repurposed into being pesticides. When you're not doing that, oh gosh, yes, everything starts to thrive again. And the thing about Wilding is that it's not just about that. Somehow it transcends being just an environmental story, and it is about the human heart and about our own wholeness and our place and responsibility as stewards of this earth. So it's about
bringing balance back to the natural balance of life, which we're getting away from.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kathy. I mean, we have separated ourselves and we have paid to live and touch the ground. And so it's more and more we are pulling ourselves away from nature and raising our kids, sadly, in that way. So yes, I am a big proponent of reconnecting to our mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's go back. How did you get involved with Illuminate? What is your background? I mean, was it a passion? Was it your passion for these causes that brought you to Illuminate, or were you a filmmaker? Or?
Right. So let's see, we could go way back. I was raised on Vancouver Island, and I credit being raised on such a beautiful island close to nature for my early care for nature. And I was also a young actor, and I happened to see an Asian show when I was, I guess, 14.
What was that?
It was called Takeoff.
Okay.
And it was I guess it was a hit in Canada and I think Japan or something like that. And just very ahead of its time, I would say. This was the early mid-90s and really ahead of its time, produced, directed, and written by a woman, which I think is part of the reason it was ahead of its time in educating kids about social and environmental justice in a way that was really entertaining. And that's something that I've carried with me, is a spoonful of sugar does make the medicine go down. So if you are going to be hoping to spread wisdom and share knowledge, it can be benefits from being couched in a very entertaining format. And so that was kind of an early experience of what we call evolutionary cinema, evolutionary media, conscious media. And it planted seeds in me that eventually led to me going to get a degree in theater when I was 18 from the Boston Conservatory. So I was an actor, I was a dancer and a singer for a time, and then was in the Bay Area, started making documentary films myself, was still acting, went to do a master's degree at a Buddhist university called Naropa University.
Where's
and
that?
It's in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
And so Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who founded Naropa University in the 70s, he talks about Dharma art, which is art that springs from an awakened state of mind. And that captivated me. I needed to go study at that school and make art that stemmed from an awakened state of mind.
Yes.
And so we were meditating most mornings before making original theater pieces. And it's an interdisciplinary degree. So I was able to not just be an actor, but be a director, be a choreographer, design video projections, and create original pieces that were helping, hopefully, society. So Naropa University led me to New York City, where I lived for 10 years. For a good part of that, I was the director of Deepak Chopra's center in New York City.
Okay.
I was producing, curating, designing about 75 events a year.
Wow.
Book launches with people like Vandana Shiva, Eve Ensler, Paul Hawken, Brené Brown.
Wow.
Plus many events with Deepak, many events with Thich Nhat Hanh, Dr. Mark Hyman, and others. Activists like Zainab Salbi, Mark Ruffalo, and, lots of great charity events, as well as these book launches and healing workshops. So that was a real PhD, I would say, in event production and curation. And being able to get to work so closely with Deepak was a real gift.
Yeah, there were such amazing thought leaders that you had access to and exposure to.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Thought leaders is the right word there. So just soaked all that in. Also was working tremendously hard to produce that amount of events with a small team. Working there, my ability to curate and know these people expanded, tenfold, of course.
Yeah.
So not only was I able to program many of my sheroes and heroes, like Vandana Shiva comes to mind. I'd been reading her books and following her forever about small-scale organic farming and regenerative land management and all of that good stuff. And it's those moments when you are able to put her in a program, or in fact, I had a program with she and Deepak speaking. And that was one of my highlights over the many years, because I had admired her for so long. And then Oh, Marianne Williamson was one that we did so many events with. And she's really the best example of someone who maybe I first discovered as a teenager and on my mom's bookshelf or something. Mm-hmm. And then here I was 25 years later on the phone with her and programming a whole series of events that we called integrative politics. Mm-hmm. And this was leading up to her first run for president. And I actually announced her presidential run in New York at one of these events.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I broke the news.
Yeah.
So it's those full circle moments that really are pretty exciting, right?
You're so unique, though. I mean, if you look at the kids these days, the youth culture, it's changed so much. And how do we get the message? How do we get the kids to care?
I love that question because it's something I'm thinking about every single day as a communication strategist.
And me as a mom.
And you as a mom.
Yes. Uh-huh. Well, and mom of a filmmaker too, because I realize that he has the potential to actually make an impact through film.
So it's really important, his influences, and that he knows he has support to make meaningful films.
Exactly.
And that's part of what Illuminate stands for, is mentoring these young people to know there's a community and there are resources and there's mentorship. If you choose to take your career as a filmmaker in a direction that is contributing meaningfully to society and not just adding to the violence and the vapidness that we see in so much.
On TikTok, do you see what the kids are watching?
Yeah. But I want to go back to your question about how do we appeal to them? And I think many of us are inquiring about this. And it's, do we, put on some cool lipstick and earrings and talk about spiritual things on TikTok so that they see something they relate to that's kind of fun and hip and they click on it and then we sort of get in there like a Trojan horse. We've lured them in with looking cool or hip or whatever, and then we impart some wisdom. Is that the way? But some people may say that that's dumbing wisdom down and we shouldn't do that. Let's just allow them to find the classic spiritual teachings, find their way to the Thich Nhat Hanh books and all of it. But I think it needs to be a combination of both. And I will say that celebrity power goes a long, long way. So in my career as a filmmaker and creator of messaging campaigns, along with my partner, Kit Thomas, an Oscar-nominated filmmaker, we actually have noticed that if we pair people who are very recognizable, musicians and actors, with either wisdom teachers or environmental leaders, Indigenous leaders, for example, it's a great combination because the recognizable faces get the eyeballs, get the press releases, get the shares. And then once we have the mass attention, we take them into some other messages that maybe are deeper and, more to do with the cause that we're highlighting. So it's a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, I would say. It takes some creativity to be able to get into the psyche of young ones and make all of this really appealing. And I dare say, cool.
Yeah.
It's true. We have to.
Yeah. Going back to the festival, is that one of the reasons why you guys moved from Sedona to Santa Barbara?
Absolutely. We are excited to penetrate the mainstream more. We are excited to be closer to the entertainment industry in Los Angeles so that we can continue to have an effect of, I would say, advocating for this type of content that is rich with solutions, rich with wisdom, not just information, and really is soul-centered. Sometimes I call what we do soul-centered cinema because
it does seem like there's been more films being made with that philosophy in mind.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah. Have you noticed that?
I have. I always want more, but we're heading in the right direction, I would say. And we need to show the industry that festivals like Illuminate are popular, well-attended, that people really want to see the films that screen here. And I've had a taste of that since the festival this past April. People are saying, well, where can I see these films now? Where can I see? I was out of town, or I missed this, or whatever it is. And I'm saying, well, a lot of these you won't see for a while. They're looking for distribution deals. We hope that you'll be able to stream them in your home, or before that, even that they would have a wide mainstream theatrical run. But as you know, it's a numbers game for many of the executives, and understandably. And so we need to cultivate an audience that is excited about the transformational cinema genre because it touches them and it changes the way that they walk in the world in a way that is meaningful to them and their families. And once the entertainment industry starts to see this rising tide of interest in this kind of soul-centered cinema, then they start to buy those films. They start to finance those films. They start to distribute them. So we're chipping away every year. I feel they are taking more and more notice.
Were there some distributors that attended this film festival because it was closer to Los Angeles? How did that go?
Absolutely. We certainly had, I would say, more attendance of industry from Los Angeles because it's just a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
And they had a great time. Many important connections were made, and many seeds were planted, I would say. So
they felt impacted by the films?
Oh, absolutely.
That's great.
Exactly. And then they talk to their colleagues.
Oh, interesting.
And, set up meetings. And they see, honestly, the nicest thing is for them to see a full house, right? And people clapping and standing and walking out of the theater just buzzing. So it's integral that they understand the deep excitement that is ignited when people see these films that aren't your mainstream Hollywood blockbusters.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, is it possible to have any screenings in Los Angeles so more people, just partnering with some theaters in LA?
Certainly. That's part of
there's American Cinematheque. Do you know about them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is part of our long-term plan, I would say. Every event takes a lot of time and staff to produce, more than people might recognize. But it's these kind of partnerships that we look forward to. And yes, we could have satellite locations of Illuminate really in Los Angeles, yes, but all over the world. And we look forward to that in the sort of 5-10 year plan.
Yeah. So how many films are submitted, and what percentage of those films actually get screened at the festival?
Right. So varies from year to year. And why is that? One never knows. Sometimes it's a very big year for films in this genre, and other times it's just light. The production schedules, for whatever reason, they're just not quite done, or they just got their finances and they're just starting. So it comes in waves. And I would say this year was kind of a medium to light year. And we still received hundreds of submissions through Film Freeway. And it is a lot of effort to screen every single film. We make sure to watch,
I can imagine,
every single film that's submitted. So we have a screening committee, and then a program director and a senior programmer. And we make sure to be very present with every film that is submitted. And we have a whole bunch of categories that we're grading on. And the main thing is the heart of the film aligned with the heart and intention of Illuminate.
And what is the criteria how do you decide which films get screened?
So it's a combination of craft and story and topic and timeliness. Our standards for craft are very high. And sometimes
because you want production value, is that?
Production value all the way. It's the only way these films are going to get seen by the people that need to see them and get a mainstream wide distribution. So it's important that everything from the lighting and, interviews just being beautifully shot with, sound is so important, as you are learning with your podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't shoot an interview in an echoey room and try to fix it later. It just doesn't work. So in the moment when you're setting up those interviews, the lighting, the sound, obviously just the whole vibe that you have hopefully found with your interview subject, and asking the right questions that allow them to speak from the heart and really get into some pithy stuff. It's a whole technique, right? Interviewing well, and maybe having the boldness to direct your participant to say something over again if they're rambling. And that takes confidence from a director to say, I love what you said in 10 minutes, but we need it in 2 minutes. Okay. So let's try to make what you said more concise. And that I see with more seasoned directors, they become a little more confident to be able to actually say, I'm going to need you to do that again. So interviews, if we're talking about documentaries, which there are many in Illuminate, and then story, whether it's a documentary or a narrative film, there needs to be an arc. There needs to be individual character arcs. What are the obstacles that are happening? How are they overcoming them? How are things resolving? Are there twists and turns? Yeah. Again, this can be in a documentary, and more we're seeing documentary go a little bit more, I would say, in the sort of fictional story arc structure, in the 1, 2, and 3 act story structure that's being applied to documentary storytelling. And I think it's really working well.
I think it needs that, because to grab the general audience's interest, it does need to have that arc.
I agree. And certainly there's a time and a place for strictly informational documentaries, like something, I don't know, I might flip on the TV and I'm learning about, I don't know, you name it. Lions, right? I'm learning about lions. Or I'm thinking even of some of Rick Steves' work. Yeah, just about the historical things.
Yes.
It's informational, it's expository in the way that there may be a narrator. So not to diss that particular style of documentary. However, when we are talking about theatrical releases and attracting a wide audience, I do agree with you. I think that documentarians have been learning a lot from this traditional story structure, and having even a protagonist, and having that protagonist or protagonists face obstacles and overcome them. And it's this interesting dance, because when you're shooting a documentary, you really might not know what you are going to get. And that's part of the absolute joy of it. I mean, I think about the film Navalny. Did you see that?
Which one? It's
called Navalny.
No.
And it's about the Russian dissident who I can't believe is no longer alive. But you'll have to see that, okay? Because this is an example of, yes, it's an interesting film, but then
How am I going to see that, though? Is it seeable?
You'll find it. I'm sure it is. Something unexpected happens. Okay. And it is documentary gold.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
So they set the circumstances such that something could happen, but you never know.
Yeah.
It was unlikely. And they had a few people filming. It was pretty guerrilla style, but you can't believe what happened.
Huh.
And to be capturing
that's crazy
video while something so unexpected is revealed, it just, like I said, it's documentary gold, you know, it's once in a lifetime, if that. And this happened. So that's a really fun example of documentary, because a lot of the times the events are unfolding as you're capturing them. You don't know. So what is the interplay of structuring a documentary in a way that is, you know, maybe somewhat linear, but then also leaving room for the unexpected? And so much of that happens in post, right? In editing. And that's why a director partnering with a great editor is so important. And I think sometimes when we're small scale, we try to do everything ourselves, especially directors editing. And I think it's so wonderful for directors to have editing skills.
Yeah.
However, I will say that if you can partner with an excellent editor, I mean, really top of their game, or at least barring that, have some advisors to really that are not so inside of it that you might be, because we get attached to our work as directors and we might not cut things because it was really hard to get that shot, but it's not serving the story anymore. Yeah.
How did people find out about Illuminate? I mean, before you came to Santa Barbara, I had not heard about Illuminate. However, I wasn't really involved with the film industry anyway. But how do these filmmakers find out about your festival?
So a couple ways. You can join our mailing list and just go to illuminatefilmfestival.com, and then you'll see easily how to join our mailing list. And we announce that submission timeline to subscribers. And then it's also will be on our website, and it's on Film Freeway, which is the main platform that film
so they just kind of go through. Have you thought about reaching out to film schools so the upcoming filmmakers will know about Illuminate?
Absolutely. We do that as well. We get in many listings of film schools and other film communities. Yeah, because the outreach is the first important half of it, right? If people don't know to submit to Illuminate, we might never hear of their films, much as we try to keep our pulse on what is in production in the transformational cinema genre. We might miss something. So yeah.
What percentage of them are the films or narratives? Because I can see it's going to be documentary heavy.
I would say in terms of submissions, maybe 25% come in as narratives. And we are open to both and even episodics. So like it could be the first episode of a new television series, either narrative or doc.
What's an example of one that a narrative that would have been, or that was screened at Illuminate?
Yeah. So this past year we had one called Jacob the Baker, and that's based on a best-selling book series by Noah Ben Shia, actually a local author. And this was made into a beautiful feature film. And it follows the story of a baker who ends up being a source of wisdom and counsel to many people around the world, actually. So beautifully shot, very high production value. And we had Noah, whose books the film was based on, with us to talk about the process of really converting a book to the screen. So that's an example of a narrative film. And we love them. We want more, right? And this is another thing that Illuminate is advocating for, is for these to be made. They tend to cost more.
Yeah.
So it's
to pay the actors.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's sets, right? And you might need to be shooting in a studio, and you might need to be really renting locations. So it's definitely higher cost and requires more, I would say, planning and financing and sort of probably connections to actually make something like that come to fruition. It's a longer run-up process. You can't really just decide, okay, I'm really passionate about this. Let me figure out how to make a documentary about it. There are many more steps to prepare to shoot a narrative film. Yeah.
So you said, you get a lot of film submissions and you spend your time going through each one and being present. Do you want more submissions because you think it might be overwhelming to get more submissions?
Oh gosh, we welcome as many submissions as possible because we're just looking for the best of the best.
Yeah.
So in that case, we just expand the screening team. Yeah, we would never want to put a cap on how many films are being submitted to us.
So you just had the film festival in April. Any lessons learned? Any surprises?
The weather is always a surprise, right? And in April, you never know. So our opening day and opening night was I feel like one of the coldest days ever in Santa Barbara. I mean,
it's cold right now.
It's freezing. It is gray right now, but
yeah,
this was freezing. So no big deal, but just the extra heat lamps. And it was very windy. So we had what we called a green carpet, which was designed by Magdalena Maddox with flowers by Emma Rose.
Oh, yeah, I know Emma. She's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah. So they just knocked it out of the park. They brought all of these native plants, which then were donated to a local school garden. And the green carpet it's actually like an organic green rug. And then we have a backdrop with the Illuminate logo, step and repeat. And we had flowers all around and plants and trees. And it's where people were getting pictures taken, and it kept blowing over. So,
oh no.
So, sandbags and just kind of last minute things that we weren't quite expecting, but no big deal. And I would say other lessons learned might be just the scheduling, making the schedule extremely clear on the website. And there's like different grid formats that you can do so people can tell if they can indeed attend those two films or if one would overlap the other. So yeah, just silly sort of technical things.
Yeah, but overall a great experience. Because it was sold out, do you expect to make it bigger next year?
Yes, it will grow. And we don't want Illuminate to get too huge. I don't know about you, but when I go to a film festival and I'm pulled in 7 directions, it's actually just becomes too much.
Yeah.
And I want to figure out how I can get to a yoga class in the morning or move my body and not just be sitting all day. So we're looking to make Illuminate a very integrated experience, mind, body, spirit. So can you get up and go to an Illuminate event that is meditation and movement in the morning? Then maybe our films start a little bit later. And then is there a social happy hours? You really get to connect, and then maybe a dance party. And so it becomes much more than just a film festival.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a summit. And one of my mentors says, if you want to change the world, throw a better party.
Yeah.
So we really take that to heart and think that it's important to have joy, find joy, and really connect in a fun, heartfelt way with everybody from all over the country and the world who are coming. So,
I mean, it was great energy. Is it always great energy? Was it the same in Sedona, or do you feel like there's a different energy being here in Santa Barbara?
It's always been that. We call it the Illuminate magic. It's just this alchemy that happens when people with a similar intention, essentially to help make the world a better place, a more just place for all. When we all come together, when we're standing in line waiting to get into a film and you feel safe just turning to the person next to you and striking up a conversation.
Exactly.
I mean,
but Santa Barbara's kind of like that too.
It is. And I feel like this is next level because there is something that unites all of us. If you're at the Illuminate Film Festival for any film or reception or whatever workshop, you probably have something in common with the people around you.
Yeah.
So there's a safety and an intimacy, an automatic intimacy that is established, and that helps bring the Illuminate magic. So I'm happy to say that this is, I would say, unique to Illuminate. And we had so much feedback about this very thing, that people made new friends. I know people who are now going into business together.
Oh, that's great.
From
amazing.
Meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great.
I didn't ask you, how did it start?
How did Illuminate start?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that really, really is a question for the founder, Danette Walpert-Holman. But I know that she was the, I believe, associate director of the Miami Film Festival. And she learned so much there, but felt that the films weren't really reflective of what they could be. That Miami Film Festival and many others were not interested particularly in leveraging the power of cinema to help us become better versions of ourselves, both individually and collectively. And so she was inspired to use what she'd learned in Miami to start a film festival that was dedicated to transformational films. And that was 10 years ago. So what a wonderful seed that she planted. And we call this Illuminate 2.0 in Santa Barbara because while the DNA is the same, it is growing in new ways now. And it's going to be able to reach even further and I think achieve even a greater level of just excellence and wide appeal, which again, we don't just want to be preaching to the choir. I mean, as fun as that is, really, really, we need this content to reach outside of those of us who already would go to this. Yeah.
Well, how is it growing? When I go somewhere else, it's just a completely different world. I mean, like, is it possible to partner with other cities so you can... Have you thought about that?
Yes. That goes back to our satellite plan.
Okay.
And again, we need to grow in our core infrastructure before we can branch out in those exciting ways. But we do look forward to it, and we do see the necessity to, be in many cities so that everybody has the gift of seeing these great films.
I mean, I never followed the path that you took. I was just a normal person trying to hang out with friends and traveling, whatever. So all this is relatively new to me. But the one thing that we have in common is if I see something, it bothers me when people don't recycle, and it's just an easy thing to do. And I don't understand why they can't just put it in the other bin. Or when you see how animals are being treated, whether they're domestic or they're on our food chain, just
I'm so with
waste,
you, Kathy. I'm
waste.
so with you.
When you go out to restaurants and there's so much food that's being served and it's not necessary because most of it's not going to be eaten and it's going to go to the landfill.
Or how about single-use plastics? Let's not even go there.
Yeah. So all of these things, but I didn't know what to do about it. And then I don't know if it's because I'm here or I met you and and it's all.
Yeah. I think the antidote to anxiety is action. And this is my particular way of taking action. It seems to have been a thread in my life, the communication arts and being involved in film and television, whether that's in front of the camera, behind the camera, head of a film festival now. It's something that's my dharma to do. And I think this is a way that I can use my skills to build awareness and inspire people too. So you're doing it in your way, I think.
I think this is, it's happening. Somebody suggested I do the podcast. And as I've been doing the podcast, I feel like I'm on this path to help raise awareness and build community. So
I love it. And doesn't it make you feel good that you're doing something?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I feel like maybe it might have an influence someday.
Exactly. Yeah. And we never know. That's the thing that gets me in a good way, is that the films that my team and I programmed this past season, for example, I will never know the 600 people that came to opening night, how the seed of that film, Love Over Money, the John Robbins story, how that is going to take root in their souls and how that's going to impact either, what food choices they make or career choices. Or I just ran into a woman the other day who I had no idea she was even there, but she said, oh my gosh, she said, I've been writing a book, and seeing that film let me know that my book could be so much more. So I sort of scrapped the old book that I was working on, and I'm doing it in a whole different way. And I'm sharing so much more of myself. And I would never have known that I could write from a different place had I not seen that film. So that's very unexpected for me to hear from an author who is writing a book differently because she saw that movie. So you never know how people are touched by something that you initially brought into existence or helped bring to them. And that is so much magic. And I think it's those moments that keep me going. And it is important for us, maybe behind the scenes. Sometimes we don't get enough of that feedback, or we're too busy to really take it in. But for me, it's those moments that keep me going and make me understand that actually I am contributing in an important way to people's lives. So,
So I would love to share those movies with my friends. And how do they see, I mean, is it possible to see one of those films? And how do they find out about Illuminate Film Festival?
So the first thing that I would say is go to illuminatefilmfestival.com and check out the streaming library. Okay. We have almost 200 titles of transformational films. Some of them have been in past festivals, some not, but they're all curated for their quality and their messages. And I think a lot of your listeners would really appreciate them. And you can either become an Illuminate member and get a bunch of screenings free, or you can rent them one by one. And then secondly, I would say, again, join our mailing list, because there's a film, one of the festival films coming out, a special online distribution happening soon. And we're partnering with the production company to promote that free online screening window of, I think it's 2 weeks you'll have to watch.
Which one is it?
It's Love Over Money.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm going to share that with you.
Okay, good. So that's coming right up.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, you will probably see soon on some streaming platforms. So I would just say, keep an eye. And we also on our social media sometimes announce that a festival film is now on Netflix.
Great.
And that makes us really happy, right? Yeah. So those are my suggestions.
So there's a couple coming up on Netflix that were screened at the film festival?
Yes, they will be.
Yeah, that's great.
Sometime in the next 6 months or a year. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm so glad to have you here in Santa Barbara. I mean, you've been here, but the film festival, it's an amazing addition, and I think it aligns with the community values.
Thank
you, it's good
Kathy.
To spread the message.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say we've been very warmly embraced by the Santa Barbara community. And again, I've been here for 5 years, but the festival is new here, right? From Sedona. And we have donated office space from Ronaldo and Lalo Brutoco. That's Omega Point Institute. I mean, what a huge contribution for us. And so many other people and organizations in the community that have come forward to support Illuminate. It means so much because, one way we're a little bit in startup mode because we're in a new city. Yeah. While in another way we're very established, but it takes a village. So yes, just want to express my gratitude.
Yeah. Teamwork. Yeah. So when the festival will probably be April or May next year?
It'll be in the spring. So we're looking at either actually March or April next year.
And it's definitely worth going to.
Yeah. So illuminatefilmfestival.com, get on our mailing list.
Yes.
And keep in touch.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you once again for listening. I hope you were inspired by today's episode and excited about Illuminate Film Festival that will be happening again in the spring. Be sure to sign up to stay updated on the upcoming screenings or to find out more about Illuminate. Again, the website is illuminatefilmfestival.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and share to help us continue exploring and celebrating the remarkable individuals that live in Santa Barbara.